Hi, welcome to Harmonies. My name is Denise Hurley, and I am here with Tracy Grammer today. Welcome, Tracy.
Well, thanks, Denise.
Well, nice to see you again.
Nice to see you as well. I love your backdrop.
Oh, thank you. I'll show you the whole thing.
Yeah, let's see that. Let's get an eyeful of that. Lovely.
Yeah, I've been trying different ones for the different interviews I've been doing, so I'm
Uh,
playing with the backdrops. It's kind of fun. Yep. So, okay, first of all, how is Miss Kitty?
oh gosh. Poor Miss Kitty, man. Well, she's 18 years old, so
Okay. Yep.
at this point, I feel like we're just kind of patching her together. She's okay today, you know.
Okay.
She's got a lot of issues. She's got old kitty issues like thyroid and high blood pressure and
Hmm.
kidney and
Yeah.
arthritis, and so she's on a lot of medicine, and
Okay.
but she seems content. I was just upstairs and she was lounging in her favorite chair with the sun on her back, and
Nice.
it seemed like a good life. So it's hard to tell. They get older and they stop playing. Like, things kind of just stop happening. Like she stopped coming downstairs a lot and she stopped chasing toys a lot. And it just happened so gradually I didn't realize. And then they'll have these breakthrough moments where they'll bat at a toy and you'll realize you haven't seen them do that in months. And
Right.
it's just it's bittersweet. It's
Sure.
really, this is the first pet that I've had that has advanced to old age with me.
Hmm.
I've had other pets that got old, but they ended up with boyfriends or or whatever. So uh, it's an interesting kind of reckoning with
Yeah.
aging and the failing body, and
Yeah.
and her grace in the face of it all. I mean, she doesn't know. She's not there going, "Ah, I'm so old." She's just dealing with how it is. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
No, I can relate. I just had the same thing with one of my kittens, cats too. So I understand what you're talking about for
Oh,
sure.
yeah.
So, okay. I listened to the cover that you just recorded, the Towns Van Zandt
Yeah.
cover. I'll be home in the morning. So beautiful. It was lovely.
Oh, thank
Um,
you.
it was gorgeous to listen to. Um, so I'm wondering if you could talk about the inspiration of doing that cover.
Yeah, sure. So when I did my last full-length album, which was Low Tide,
Hmm.
one of the Kickstarter rewards was I would do a cover song for somebody. Like, that was one of the tiers, one of the things you could get with your substantial donation is that
Right.
any cover song you wanted, I would record for you. And one of my best friends from high school, a woman named Leah, um, pitched in for that level, and then she just said, "Record your favorite song of all time." And I was like, "Holy smokes, that didn't narrow it down very much." And this was a duo cover, so this was to be me and Jim Henry. And
Hmm.
so I thought about it. I agonized over it. I took a year. Like, it just took me forever to get around to it. And I don't know if this is my favorite song of all time,
Okay.
but it was my favorite song in the moment. And so I made a recording of it for her. And technically, those recordings are just supposed to be for the person. They're not really supposed to be released. Like, I did all kinds of cover songs for people that were really interesting. Everything from Phil Collins to these old trad folk songs and stuff in between, and some rock and roll. It was just really fun. But this one struck me earlier this year, just as the pandemic was beginning to take hold, and we were starting to hear reports of the separation of people who were dying in the hospital
Mhm.
and how their loved ones couldn't be with them.
Right.
And I was like, and just in that moment, even though the song is about troubadours and traveling and leaving and staying home and that difficult choice that we all have to make, um, as I sang that song, I was thinking, close your eyes, I'll be here in the morning. Close your eyes, I'll be here for a while. I just thought if there was some way that music could bridge that distance that people were feeling, here you are outside the hospital and your loved one is inside, could music bridge it? And so when I sang it, even though the song is not about that at all, that's what I was feeling. And so I sent it to Leah, and she loved it. And I loved it too. There was something special that came out of that energy. And so what I told her I would do is have Jim Henry record a different electric guitar part so that it would set it apart from her version that she got. And so that's the one that you hear
Okay.
that we released, is that we did a public version.
Yeah, I loved it. I really did.
Oh, thanks.
Um, so the next thing I wanted to ask you about, you and Jim Henry have a pretty good collaboration
Yeah.
going on for what, a couple of years now?
Oh, Jim Henry and I have been playing together since 2003. So we're coming up on 2 decades here.
Okay.
Actually, September 10 will be our 17-year gig anniversary.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's great. That's great.
Yeah, it really is. And I think about it a lot because I've been working on this memoir about my time with Dave Carter. I've been working
Hmm.
on this book forever. And I only spent 6 years with Dave Carter. And I'm like, what about Jim Henry over here? Like, I've been working with this guy for 17 years. Where's his book? Where's his song? It's just so interesting to me that these years have kind of snuck up on us both.
Sure.
It's like you turn around and, here we are all these years later. So, but yeah, it's a good long collaboration. Um, my probably my most trusted musical compadre. I just know if I get on stage with Jim Henry, it's going to sound good, really good.
Yeah.
He's going to
Yeah.
make me sound better than I am. So,
Well, well, that's terrific. That's terrific. Um, Now I'm interested about what is your favorite memory as a musician? Memory or spot that you played?
that is a really good question. I mean, there are certain memories that are like the most indelible.
Hmm.
For instance, um, getting on the stage the Friday after Dave Carter passed away, and I was at Falcon Ridge.
Yeah.
Like, I will never forget what that was like. But is it my favorite memory? It
Mm,
wasn't my favorite moment, but
right.
but what's my favorite gig memory? Well, something that I felt really good about also at Falcon Ridge
Okay.
was in 2012, and it was the 10-year anniversary of Dave Carter's passing.
Okay.
And we put on a tribute set to him that featured a whole bunch of different artists. Everybody, learned a Dave Carter song for this particular set. And we're going to get up and perform it. And then I would also be there with a band that at the time included Jim Henry
Hmm.
and my new fiance and one of my best musical buddies, Rob Schnell. And so not only were we celebrating this journey that we had made to this 10-year mark, with all these great artists singing the songs of Dave Carter, but I was on stage with some of my favorite people in the world. And the whole set was just a triumph. I mean, what happened in 2002 is we did a similar thing, a multi-artist tribute, but it was pulled together very last minute and everybody was grieving. So it was pretty rough, people were
Yes.
crying and trying to sing the songs and it was very raw. And this one was, by contrast, just super polished, very
Mm,
smooth, still deeply reverent, but beautiful in a new way. And so I think there was something about that. I just had this feeling of having come full circle, which was
yeah.
really sweet and something I really desperately needed to feel at that
Right.
moment.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Nice. Nice. Um, so how are you doing during these times?
Yeah,
You know, What's been going on?
What's going on? Well, obviously, no gigs. I live
Mhm.
alone with my cat, so there has been, how do you navigate this completely by yourself? Especially when they're like, "Don't go
Sure.
out." In the early, we were just joking. I was joking with the neighbors about how early in the pandemic it was like, "Don't touch anything, don't breathe on anybody, don't look at anybody." It was very disorienting. Um, I went through a couple of months, as I think a lot of us did, just like totally at sea. Not sure how to structure my days, not sure what to do with all this time being home, um,
Hmm.
not sure how to comport myself in this new paradigm. And then something clicked in, and I was like, Tracy, make yourself a schedule. Like just
Hmm.
make yourself like I sort of realized that there's different Tracys in there, and one of them is very plan and schedule oriented, and then a lot of them are like little monkeys just running around. And I
Yeah.
knew I needed to corral these monkeys, or I was just gonna come out of this pandemic really unhappy about what I didn't get done.
Hmm.
And I just realized I was spinning my wheels. So I came up with a schedule, and it just changed everything. I had time in the day to do all of my favorite things: the walking, the reading, the writing, the music, yoga, just everything I wanted to do in a day, I made time for. Um, and that went really well until I had my ACL reconstruction surgery in
Right.
July. And that has just thrown it all into chaos again, and I haven't really recovered quite.
Yeah.
And so I'm still a cut, it's just so symbolic. Yeah, I mean, the metaphor, we could just run with it all day long, but it really did just sort of cut my routine and, you know, I'm still trying to find my way back. But I was thinking about this interview today and I was like, God, Denise is going to be the first person I've talked to today, except for Miss Kitty. And some days it's true.
Yeah.
I'll go a whole day and just not talk to anyone,
Mm.
and not see anybody. I could go, now that I'm walking around again, the leg, I can finally walk with it around the block and stuff. But there was 6 weeks there where I just didn't go outside, and it's just like, ugh, it's rough.
Yeah.
It's rough if like, and I have such a love-hate with social media right now because of how contentious it can be in there and just how dehumanizing it is, like, and reactive. And but if you don't go there, then what? It's
Right. Yeah. That's true. That's
yeah.
true.
So I don't know. I mean, I'm really lucky that my neighbors are literally a stone's throw. I live in a duplex with some great ladies on the other side, and then I've got great neighbors right here, and there's kind of a little pod feeling. So
Yeah.
um, that's been great, and
Good.
that has been the net that has kind of carried me. Everybody looking out for each other and shopping for each other and kind of coordinating as we can. So
That's good. It's
yeah.
important. It's
It,
important to have some sort of connection when we're all going through this and have someone to
absolutely.
be there for you. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Um, so are you thinking of any projects to start working on? Are you doing any songwriting, or is that something you just haven't really got to yet?
Um, I'm always writing down little things, little insights and inspirations. I have been working in earnest on my memoir, which is
Hmm.
a project that I started, I'm embarrassed to say, 13 years ago. And I again, with the surgery, it's like all of a sudden I'm like, do I even want to finish this? So I'm in a process with that, but I've been in a year-long memoir group that started in January, and chipping away at that
Hmm.
in the downtime. I've actually gotten quite a bit of studio work. I have a little recording studio upstairs, and so people send me their songs, and they're like, "Hey, could you put a harmony or put a violin part or whatever?" So I've been doing that kind of work for people, which is great. Keeps the music flowing.
Sure.
Jim Henry and I are giving monthly YouTube concerts,
Okay.
and we're doing them on a theme. So every month we're having to learn a bunch of new songs to the theme. So for
Okay.
a few months in a row, the theme was the letter B because we were calling these our Plan B tours. And so we would just play songs that started with B. So we had to do a lot of research,
Hmm.
and that was really fun. And now we've moved on. We're going to do C this month. But
Okay.
So we're finding ways, to keep the music flowing even at a distance. Finding ways. I've also been, well, you can see my stack of memoirs that I've been reading to sort of like inspire myself
Uh-huh.
and to show myself that it is possible to finish one, that it's just a little thing, it's just a container, you can do this. So that's kind of what I've been doing. Not a lot of like sit down and just throw down a song. I haven't
Yeah.
really. I have the guitars out, I pick them up and I play them in the evening or the mandolin, and little things come to me, but nothing has really stuck, you know.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, not yet. But I was talking to Jim Henry about possibly making a record of some of these B songs because some of them turned out to be really fun. We had a good time with that. So we'll see. We'll see. I'm trying to talk him into doing another duo record. We'll see if I can get him to do
Oh, that would
it.
be great. That
Yeah,
would
we
be
haven't
really
done
good.
anything stripped down in a long time.
Uh-huh.
We've had a couple of studio albums, but it would be nice to make another one. I'm in the mood. So
Sure.
yeah, and now that we both have our own, that my studio is, I finally got some nice microphones up there that just sound really great, and I'm proud of what comes out of there.
Hmm.
Um, we can actually do a record virtually. We don't have to be in the same room.
Right. Yeah.
So it's interesting opportunities. So
Well, I hope you do that. That sounds wonderful.
yeah.
Um, Now I read that you toured with Joan Baez.
I did.
What was that like?
It was awesome, I have to say. I was just as part of my memoir work, I got out my box of journals, which I hadn't looked at in a long time. Part of the reason I got them out was because I couldn't really remember how it was with Joan and the boys on the bus. And I was like, I need to get back in that zone. And as soon as I started reading it, it all came back to me. Just it was such a challenge for me. I went in to that pretty much feeling like I'm only here because she wants Dave. Like I
Hmm.
just I just come with the package. Like I'm just whatever. Like she felt like she had to take me on because she really wanted to work with Dave because his songwriting
Hmm.
was so great. And but I remember, and the journals reminded me that at the very first rehearsal, she wanted me to take the lead on a song, the vocal lead, like swap verses with her. And I was like, oh no, Joan, I can't sing that high. And she's like, oh, just shut up and sing. And then she decided I should take all the solos, on violin or mandolin. And so she really pushed me out there. She had a lot of faith in my musical abilities, and the band was very supportive. And it was a huge growth opportunity for me. Also, Joan is just hilarious. She's
Is she?
hilarious and she's sweet and she's warm and she's earthy and irreverent, and she's just as cool as you think she would be.
Okay.
And it's so nice to be able to say that. And actually, it's been my experience with some of the uber famous people that I've met, like her and Mary Chapin Carpenter and Sean Colvin. Like, they could really be divas. They've earned the right. And Judy Collins. But all of them have just been so sweet and so down to earth and so funny and real. And yeah, I've been really lucky. But touring with Joan, I laugh about it because Dave and I were just barely out of the gate at that point. We had only
Mhm.
been in the public eye for what, like two years maybe,
Mhm.
and here we are on a bus tour, with bunks, and we're like riding with the band. And it's like the 20 years later, I'm like, where's my bus tour now? Like, how did we get to do that when we were so young and like not even really ready? But we did. It happened the way it happened. So I'm glad I had the experience. It was really something.
Wait, do you ever stay in touch with her, or is that
You know, not really.
no?
Every now and then I'll just have this geyser of gratitude well up in me, and I'll have to send her an email, but I'm not even sure she has the same email address. So then I'll go through her manager, I'll be like, Mark, could you just tell Joan I'm feeling really grateful today? He's like, I got it. So, but no, everybody's busy, whatever. Now she's retired, so she's out painting and doing her thing, and I'm over here nursing my cat. So,
Nice.
yeah.
Nice. Um, Now, the other thing I wanted to talk to you about was the Dave Carter project.
Mhm.
Can you talk a little bit about what's going on with that?
Well, originally, the Dave Carter Legacy Project was going to be a nonprofit.
Hmm.
It was a nonprofit for a few years, and a way to sort of support some of the archiving that needed to happen. There were a lot of recordings and interviews and things that were on recorded on fragile media like cassette tape
Okay.
or VCR material, for
Hmm.
ADATs and stuff. And it just needed to be bounced into the digital realm for safekeeping.
Okay.
That was one of the projects. There were others, songbook projects and things like that. And I've had so many other ideas over the years. And so for a while, I was partnered with Folk Alliance International
Hmm.
to make that happen. And then they changed leadership and they changed, their nonprofit umbrella structure, and they decided that they didn't want to be our umbrella anymore. And I haven't really sought another, because I don't know that I have it in me to manage a nonprofit in addition to the other things that I'm doing.
Sure.
But it always, the Dave Carter Legacy Project is more like a state of mind at this point.
Okay.
It's not a thing that receives any funding. It's a box of CDs which I can see from right here that I still need to go through and like figure out. It's interviews and stuff that I want to pull quotes from and listen to and see if there's maybe a live recording that we could get in there out of there somewhere, or just hear some of the funny stories that Dave used to tell and share them with people. So it's also boxes of memorabilia that for
Mhm.
some unknown reason I started saving from the minute I met Dave,
Really?
like before I knew anything about anything. And actually, as I'm going through the memoir, I'm starting to learn that pack rat. I'm not a hoarder so much, but I do save things. I
Yeah.
do. I have a sense, and like I've saved every letter that anybody's ever sent me, and I've saved every piece of fan mail that we got, and email or paper or whatever. Every napkin that someone passed me after a show, every little kid drawing, of,
Hmm.
of a song. And so I have these things and tour schedules and posters and scribbles and pictures and at some point I want to organize them. I don't know that I want to do it right now. Although doing it could help me finish the memoir, just by unlocking certain memories. But so at this point, it's basically just a one woman thing when I get around to doing it.
Okay.
And more of an intention, than like something I'm chipping away at all the time. I go in bursts, it's
Yeah.
one of those kind of projects.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
the cellar, maybe. Yeah.
Like the seller.
Yeah.
Exactly.
You're like, I got to do something with this today. And then you get,
So, okay. All right. Well, is there anything else that you may want to talk about today?
let's see. Well, I just hope everyone's doing all right.
Yeah.
It's, it would be really easy for people, even though we've opened up and, the social distancing, physical distancing, people are able to kind of have get togethers. And Jim Henry and I actually played a little concert yesterday. Um,
Nice.
where the audience was super spread out on somebody's lawn, and there were only like 20 of them. And we were up on the porch, really, really distanced from them,
Mm-hmm.
um, and giving a little concert. Those things are happening now, but we're heading into fall. And on the heels of fall, if you're in New England, we're all going to be shut in. Like, how are we going to take care of ourselves if this thing is still, if we don't have the opportunity to connect the way we can in
Right.
good weather. And so, so I'm just concerned about what I'm going to do and what other people are going to do and how we're going to keep ourselves, kind of whole as we head in to the long night season.
Right. Well, as you mentioned, New Englanders, though, they always find a way to figure things out, I think, and how to, you know, do things to keep us whole and to make life interesting for ourselves, and to take care of other people. I think we're really good at doing that. So,
You know
so I
that
have a lot of hope that
yeah,
we'll figure it out.
yeah, that has certainly been my experience here. Like I don't this is the longest I've ever lived in one place. I'm in
Hmm.
Greenfield and I have never had this level of community. Even though I'm on like a fairly busy residential street, like I know all these neighbors and I know that any of them, if I needed something, if I ran out in the street and I was like, help, like help would come from
Right.
all the angles, you
Yeah.
know, and there isn't
Yeah.
anybody on the block that I wouldn't do anything for, it's just, and it's not like we know each other so well, but it's just like you're my neighbor and there's a feeling of shared community and shared responsibility,
Hmm.
that we hold one another well in wellness, and I
Yeah.
just adore that about this town. Greenfield has been such a great town that way. So
So, well, I'm glad. I'm glad you have that support, like I said earlier. So, all right. Well, Tracy, I want to thank you for coming on my show. I really appreciate it.
well, thank you,
And
Denise.
I wish you the best. And hopefully, you can come back to the music series again when things start up.
Yeah,
Um, I'm looking at next year for things to start happening again. So I'm looking forward
yeah.
to that. So
I was hearing some rumblings about June, so I don't know. Somebody I know who who runs the trucks for some of the big tours, the big
sure.
national, rock stars, um, said that his people were starting to talk about June. So maybe we can think about that. Wouldn't that be nice?
That would be wonderful.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Okay. All right, Tracy, thanks again for coming on, and
Thank you.
we will see you soon.
All right, Denise, take good care.
You too.